Alexandre Dongy, who is Managing Director of European Plastics Converters. Alexandre, a very warm welcome. You take a seat sort of roughly here-ish, I would suggest, and then we'll move down the road. I find some here, but never mind, let's carry on. If you sit there, then we can continue from there. Mette Skofgard, who is Senior Advisor in the City of Copenhagen. Luc Baas, who is European Regional Director at the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN. Alois Guiton, who is CSR Director at Auchan Retail. And Nico Rietveld, Commercial Director, Bar-le-Duc, United Soft Drinks. Okay, just fall in wherever works for you. Here we are. That one is you. And the last one. Yeah, there we go. We're all in order. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the format for this session, I have asked our panelists not to make any opening statements. We just want to dive in and begin the discussion straight away because it is all about the connecting and the sharing. So let's hear from them. We've heard about the plastic strategy quite a lot from our opening speakers. The President of the Economic and Social Committee described it as ambitious and a much-needed vision. Do you support that? How do you see, and perhaps, Alexandre, I could come to you first on this question, from the plastic converters perspective, are we on the right track now? 71% of our audience thought we were partially on the right track, but some missing elements. How did you vote on that? Do you think we're in the right direction?
Obviously, I think we are in the right direction, yes. And the reasons for that are very simple. I think today we have seen in this plastic strategy a very balanced approach towards potential regulatory measures, which are indeed needed, and some of them even are being requested by the industry. Let us just take the example of the waste directives, which need further implementation at national level, the potential landfill ban of plastics, which are being requested by the European industry as such. And let us also look, for example, in the food contact regulation, which will drive most likely quite a lot of use of recycled plastic packaging for food contact application. It's an ambitious set of measures which are being proposed, but it's also paving the way for voluntary action from the industry. I think the industry is keen also to develop these markets. I'm talking as converters which are users of recycled material. And what is new, I think, and very important, is this call for pledging. Call for pledging, for the first time ever, we're not talking about percentages anymore, but we're talking about 10 million tons of volume to be reused in products. And I think this is a major game changer. If we look into the past, we've been looking now into 25 years of packaging and packaging waste regulations which took place. And yes, the recycling targets for plastics have been low. For many, many years. And now there is an enormous jump that the industry will have to make to achieve the higher recycling target. So it's a very ambitious set of measures that are being proposed. And having been involved in voluntary actions, for example, in the PVC case, we know also how long it takes to get to the volumes that are required in order to use them in products.
So we have a big job ahead of us.
Yes.
The question, we're going to have a session, not sure if my microphone, thank you very much. We're going to have a session later on the voluntary commitments approach, and we're going to hear some examples of that. But as you say, this pledging, a key element of this. Alexandre, I don't know how you voted when in the question of who leads the response. Was it for you? I mean, I was struck, I thought the private sector would be higher in terms of it's the innovation, development of the new technologies, development of new materials and so on. I was struck that it was only 12%. I don't know how you voted, but how do you see your role? You talked about the pledging and the things you're doing and this shift of emphasis. How do you see your role and the role of the other actors? And then I want to come back to this point about organisational change with you, Luc.
Yeah, well, I voted working together, of course, the easy answer. I think in a circle, and in a circular economy, the circle, everybody is trying now to position itself. How actually the circle will function and who will actually lead is a difficult question. Looking into the future circulars. I mean, the best circular economy is the smallest circle, basically, which is in your household where you actually recycle and collect yourself. The bigger the circle becomes, the more energy you have to put into the circle, the more external factors are coming into play. But coming back to the pledges, I think it's quite important to have this steady growth and not to be dreaming about high recycling targets too fast and high recycling content as well. Yes, things are possible to make 100% recycled PET bottle, but we should not let us dream to say that everything can be made out of recycled material tomorrow. We have to gradually set that up. I think it's important when you're talking about an industry which is composed of 60,000 SMEs, which potentially can use much more recycled material, we need adequate quality of that material. And that is, I think, very important. That starts, of course, with the collection and the sorting, which is at the start of the whole process. And I think that now that the recycling targets have increased for the plastics industry, also the current DPR schemes will have to revisit and relook a little bit how they are being organized. Combining this with deposit schemes, for example, talking about the PET in particular, is a good thing. We need to develop these kind of tools to improve the quality of the recycled material. And that should be done, my view, we should target also, not put all plastics in one basket. We have several kind of plastics families which are working on that. PET is one, we have the polyolefins, we have the PVC industry, and this is where industry should be leading, in my view.
Thank you very much indeed. Alexandra, from your perspective, if we are to move faster, if we're to get those pledges, we're to get that level of ambition that we're going to need, what for you is the key challenge?
Well, I think,
Can you, that's it.
yeah. Well, I think the industry has started also with voluntary commitments. I think they are essential in running in parallel with the plastic strategy. In these voluntary commitments, we go beyond packaging even, because packaging is well regulated. There are lots of other product legislations today which are not yet regulating with the plastics use. And I think this is something where industry has started and will definitely continue. What is important also, in my view, is now that we have, thanks to China, basically, we have this move. So what would have happened if China would not have stop these import bans? Would we be in a similar situation, or would it be business as usual? That's a question we have to ask ourselves as well. But we are, thankfully, we are in the situation where China basically is saying no to our waste, and we have to deal with our own waste. So it's a huge opportunity to start working and to get maybe also for certain countries, to get also recycling industry proximity, again, to where the waste sources are. I think we should stop a little bit of transporting also all this waste, not only from one continent to the other, but also even internally inside the European Union. What is the need if you can have, a country like Brussels can have a PET recycling plant? I don't know why it's still not existing.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yes,
Alexandra, I don't know how you voted on the single-use question. What category were you in?
I'm certainly not in favor of bans.
I thought you might not be.
I think one of the points we haven't touched on is education. I think this is key. The whole circular economy, I think, is also there to educate people. Yeah. And I think you can't put that in legislation. You can't put that in bans. These are attitudes. These are things in society we have to solve. Even single-use plastics, as it was rightly said today, they are recyclable, and they are being recycled. It's not because the volumes, are spread all over because sometimes consumers are not putting them in the right bin, that basically you should ban a product. That's at least my view.
Okay. Just in terms of one other question before we try and draw some conclusions, I just want to come back on the question of innovation and research, because we know that by the end of Horizon 2020, more than 350 million will have been allocated to research in this area. The Commission is planning to launch a strategic research innovation agenda for this area. Where do we need to focus, do you think, in terms of where we need the new technologies, we need that innovation? Or is it more the innovation, I think, as Meta was suggested, in looking at different ways of doing things? Where would you, I just wonder if any of you have any thoughts about the priorities in terms of the research agenda, the innovation agenda. Any thoughts? Yeah, Alexandre and Meta.
Yeah, for sure, I think in the industry, using recycled material for a converter, you need machinery to do that. The fact that today we only have a few kind of technologies able to absorb, I think, is not the way forward. We need to develop more machinery to absorb more qualitative recycled materials. That's the first thing. So at converters level, being able to convert recycled products, standardized recycled products, quality recycled material. On the other side, I think chemical recycling will have to play a major role in the future as well. Because even if you look into now the PET streams where all the nice clear bottles are being recycled, and that's the best stream we have, you know, there are complicated PET materials also on the market out there. So there needs to be an additional chemical process, a depolymerization, for example. And that's valid also for the other kind of polymers. So we need to look more into these aspects.
Thank you. Mr. Timmons, Vice President Timmons said at the beginning, it's all about, the reason we're all here, despite the progress made, is it's about turning goodwill and good intentions into good actions and good results. Specifically in relation to the plastic strategy, of all the issues we've discussed in the last hour, and Luke, I'll start with you and then come to Nico. If you had to identify one priority, and it can be a priority for anybody, any stakeholder you choose or collectively, and I want you to do it in just a couple of sentences each, what is your key priority to deliver on this strategy and make sure we get there faster, as you've all emphasised? Okay, Alexandra, for you, the key priority and who's it for?
Open up markets for recycled materials. I think today we still have quite a lot of challenges to get there. Public procurement today is still not opening all the markets it's possible to use recycled materials. And therefore the pledging and the 10 million tons for me is the way forward.
Thank you very much. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, will you join me in thanking our panel very much indeed? Thank you to you all.